Listen, we need to talk about what's really happening in the WNBA right now. And I'm not talking about the official story you're hearing from league executives. The real numbers just leaked, and they're absolutely devastating. What I'm about to share with you might completely change how you view women's basketball forever. But first, if you're a true basketball fan who wants the unfiltered truth about what's happening behind closed doors in the WNBA, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next on this channel, especially with what Sophie Cunningham just revealed about the league's future. Picture this: empty arenas, crashed ticket prices, and television executives in full panic mode. That's the WNBA without Caitlin Clark. And here's the shocking part that nobody's talking about. The league owners have been keeping the real extent of this crisis hidden from the public. Until now, 55%. Let that number sink in for a moment. That's how much WNBA television ratings have collapsed since Caitlin Clark went down with that groin injury on July 15th. We're not talking about a small dip or a temporary blip. This is a catastrophic freefall that's got team owners breaking their silence and league executives scrambling for answers. Before Clark's injury, nationally televised WNBA games were pulling in 1.81 million viewers. Now, they're barely scraping by with 847,000. That's nearly a million viewers who've simply vanished. Poof, gone. And the Indiana Fever's games specifically, they've seen a 53% drop. But wait, it gets worse. And what Sophie Cunningham just said about this whole situation is going to blow your mind. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, you need to understand the full scope of this disaster. Remember when the WNBA was celebrating record-breaking attendance and viewership? When every Caitlin Clark game was must-see TV? When tickets were selling for hundreds of dollars? Yeah, those days are over. And the speed at which everything collapsed has even shocked the biggest skeptics. Here's what one anonymous WNBA owner just told Sports Illustrated, and I quote, "We knew Caitlin was a big draw, but nobody expected the floor to fall out like this. We've got to figure out how to keep fans engaged without relying on one person." End quote. Translation? They're panicking. Another owner, speaking to Yahoo Sports, was even more blunt. "The numbers are a gut punch. We've been riding this wave of excitement, but it's clear we haven't built the foundation we thought we had." Think about that for a second. These are the people who've invested millions into this league, and they're basically admitting that without one 23-year-old from Iowa, their entire business model falls apart. That's not just concerning, it's terrifying if you're a WNBA investor, but here's where it gets really interesting. Sophie Cunningham, the Fever's enforcer who's become a fan favorite for protecting Caitlin on the court, just dropped a bombshell. After their latest loss to the Washington Mystics, she said something that's sending shockwaves through the league. "To be frank," Cunningham said, "I don't think anyone else around the league thinks that we can do it anymore, but I think that our group does." Let me translate what Sophie's really saying here. The rest of the WNBA has already written off the Indiana Fever. They think without Caitlin Clark, the Fever are done, finished, not championship contenders anymore. And that's coming from inside the locker room. But Cunningham's not just talking about basketball. She's talking about the entire league's attitude toward the team that's been carrying them on their backs all season. The disrespect is real, and it's coming from everywhere. Now, let's talk about what fans are saying, because social media has absolutely exploded over these numbers. One user on X posted, "What? I was assured that Angel Reese was the real draw. Could it have actually been Caitlin? The sarcasm is dripping, folks." Another wrote, "The Caitlin Clark effect is real. People trying to downplay her impact are just hating." And my personal favorite, "You're not supposed to say that out loud. You must hate women if you point out the obvious." The fans get it. They see what's happening. But the league? They're still trying to pretend everything's fine. Spoiler alert, it's not. Let me give you some context here. Before this season, Caitlin Clark had never missed a single game in her college or professional career. Not one. She played at least 206 consecutive games dating back to high school. This woman was an iron woman, always on the court, always delivering. Then this season hit and everything changed. First, it was a left quad strain just 4 games into the season. She came back from that, dropped 32 points against the defending champion New York Liberty, and everyone thought we were back to normal. We weren't. July 15th, 2025. Remember that date? Because that's when everything fell apart. Final minute of the game against Connecticut. Clark tweaks her groin, and suddenly the WNBA's brightest star is on the bench. And she's been there ever since. You want to know how bad it's gotten? The WNBA All-Star Game, which was supposed to be Clark's coronation in Indianapolis, saw a 36% ratings drop compared to last year. 36%! And that was with her sitting courtside as a coach. Ticket prices for that game plummeted from $121 to just $64 after news broke that Clark wouldn't play. Former NBA All-Star Jeff Teague summed it up perfectly with just 4 words. There go the views. Brutal, honest, and absolutely correct. But it's not just about TV ratings. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in arenas across the country. Games that were selling out when Clark was playing are now seeing entire sections empty. Ticket prices have crashed so hard that you can get into some games for $3. $3? That's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. The Indiana Fever vs. Chicago Sky game on June 10th, which Clark missed, drew 1.92 million viewers on CBS. Sounds decent, right? Wrong! Compare that to the season opener between the same teams when Clark was playing. 2.7 million viewers on ABC? That's a massive drop, and it tells you everything you need to know about who's really driving interest in this league. And here's the kicker. This was supposed to be the WNBA's breakthrough year. The league was projected to cross $1 billion in revenue for the first time ever. Teams were moving games to bigger arenas to accommodate demand. Merchandise was flying off the shelves. Everything was pointing up. Then Clark got hurt, and it all came crashing down. Rachel DeMita, a prominent WNBA analyst, had an interesting theory about why the ratings collapse has been so severe. She said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that a lot of people aren't just passively not watching, they're actively boycotting the WNBA. They're upset about how the league and media have handled Caitlin Clark and her fans, so they're refusing to give viewership to any other teams or players. Think about that. Fans are so loyal to Clark that they won't even watch other games out of protest. That's not normal sports fandom, that's a movement. And the league brought this on themselves. All season long, there's been this weird tension around Clark's popularity. Some people in the media and even within the league seemed uncomfortable with how much attention she was getting. They tried to prop up other players, minimize her impact, and pretend like the WNBA's success was about more than just one superstar. Well, guess what? The numbers don't lie. And now that Clark's been out, we can see exactly how much she means to this league. It's everything. Skip Bayless, never one to mince words, even suggested that the league might be lying about Clark's injury status. He thinks it might be worse than what they're telling us publicly. Is it possible, Bayless said, that she tore her groin so badly that she's already been privately ruled out for the rest of the season, yet the league wants to keep the media and fans in the dark so people keep tuning in? That's a conspiracy theory, sure, but when you look at how long this injury has dragged on, you start to wonder. Clark has been out since July 15th. It's now mid-August. That's a month for what was supposed to be a minor groin strain. Something doesn't add up. Let me tell you what Stephanie White, the Fever's coach, has been saying. She keeps using words like cautious and intentional and playing the long game. Translation: they have no idea when Clark's coming back, and they're terrified of rushing her and making things worse. Meanwhile, the Fever have been trying to survive without their superstar. They're 18-16 on the season, having lost 4 of their last 5 games. They've had to sign Odyssey Sims on a hardship contract because 2 of their other point guards, Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald, suffered season-ending injuries. It's been a disaster. But here's where Sophie Cunningham comes into the story in a big way. This woman has become the heart and soul of the Fever in Clark's absence. She's not putting up huge numbers, 8 points, 6 assists, 3 steals in their last game, but she's become something more important. The team's enforcer and emotional leader. Remember when Cunningham grabbed Connecticut's Jassy Sheldon and threw her to the ground after Sheldon poked Caitlin Clark in the eye? That moment turned Cunningham into a folk hero among Fever fans. Her Instagram followers shot past 1 million. Her TikTok exploded. She became Sophie the Enforcer, the protector of Caitlin Clark. And Cunningham has embraced it. She recently said she's way happier in Indiana than she ever was in Phoenix, where she spent her first 6 WNBA seasons. She's found her role, found her purpose, and found a fan base that absolutely adores her. Marketing experts estimate that Cunningham's social media growth alone is worth over $1 million in value. She went from a role player nobody outside of Phoenix knew about to one of the most popular players in the league, all because she stood up for Caitlin Clark. But even Cunningham's newfound popularity can't save the WNBA's ratings. The league needs Clark back, and they need her back now. Here's what's really at stake. The WNBA just signed new media deals that are supposed to generate $260 million in annual revenue starting next year. Those deals were negotiated based on the assumption that the league's growth would continue. But if ratings stay down 55%, those contracts might not be worth the paper they're printed on. Television networks don't pay for potential, they pay for eyeballs. And right now, the WNBA is hemorrhaging eyeballs at an alarming rate. The league is trying everything to stop the bleeding. They're pushing other storylines, highlighting other players, talking about parity and competition, but nothing's working. Fans want Caitlin Clark, and they're not interested in substitutes. Even the players are starting to feel it. A'ja Wilson, the three-time MVP, recently said, "This is no laughing matter. This is no trend. This is no moment in time. You're dealing with me, my livelihood, my future, the next generation." She's right. This isn't just about ratings or ticket sales. It's about the future of women's professional basketball in America. And right now, that future looks uncertain without Caitlin Clark on the court. The comparison to other sports leagues is stark. When LeBron James gets injured, NBA ratings might dip a bit, but they don't collapse by 55%. When Patrick Mahomes is out, the NFL doesn't lose half its audience. Only in the WNBA does one player's absence cause this level of catastrophe. What does that tell you? It tells you that the WNBA hasn't built a sustainable fan base yet. They've built a Caitlin Clark fan base, and there's a huge difference. Lisa Leslie, the WNBA legend, recently praised Clark's transformative impact on the league. She noted that teams are moving to larger arenas when Clark comes to town, that games are selling out months in advance, that there's genuine excitement around the sport. But all of that is dependent on Clark actually playing. Here's something that nobody's talking about enough. The way opposing players have been going after Clark this season should make WNBA officials very nervous. She's been poked in the eye, knocked down, grabbed, and fouled hard repeatedly. And now she's dealing with her third separate injury of the season. Is this a coincidence? Or is there something more going on here? Some fans think Clark is being targeted because of jealousy over her popularity and salary. Others think it's just physical basketball. But whatever the reason, the result is the same. The league's biggest star is on the bench, and the whole operation is suffering. The Indiana Fever have actually done better than expected, without Clark in the wins and losses column. They're 10-9 in games she's missed this season, but that record is misleading. They've had an easier schedule during her absences, facing teams with an average net rating of -2.7 compared to -0.6 in games Clark has played. In other words, they've been beating bad teams without her. Put them against the league's best without Clark, and it's a different story. Aaliyah Boston, Clark's teammate and the former #1 overall pick, has particularly struggled without her point guard. Boston's true shooting percentage has fallen from 63.2% with Clark to 56.7% without her. She's scoring half as many points per game. The chemistry just isn't there with other point guards. The financial implications are staggering. The Fever set a single-season attendance record last year with 340,715 fans. This year, they were on pace to shatter that. Now, teams are having to discount tickets just to get people in the door. The new expansion teams, Golden State Valkyries, Portland, and Toronto, were counting on riding the wave of WNBA popularity that Clark helped create. The Valkyries are valued at $500 million, making them the first women's team in professional sports to reach that mark. But that valuation assumes continued growth. If the league can't maintain interest without Clark, those numbers might need to be revised. Here's what's really scary for the WNBA. They don't have a backup plan. There's no other player who can draw like Clark. Paige Buchers, the rookie sensation from UConn who was supposed to be the next big thing, has also been dealing with injuries. Angel Reese, Clark's rival from LSU, doesn't move the needle the same way. A'ja Wilson is incredibly talented, but doesn't have Clark's crossover appeal. The league put all its eggs in the Caitlin Clark basket, and now that basket has a massive hole in it. Marketing experts are already studying this as a cautionary tale about star dependency. The WNBA had an opportunity to use Clark's popularity to build broader interest in the league, to create new stars, to establish must-see rivalries. Instead, they seemed almost embarrassed by her popularity at times, trying to spread the attention around rather than fully embracing their golden goose. Now they're paying the price. The upcoming games could be make or break for the season. If Clark comes back soon and healthy, maybe they can salvage things. The Fever still have crucial matchups against top teams, and the playoffs are approaching. A strong finish could regenerate interest. But if Clark's injury lingers, if she misses the playoffs, the damage might be irreversible. One insider told me that television executives are already having emergency meetings about the WNBA's coverage. They're trying to figure out how to market games without Clark, how to maintain viewer interest, how to justify the massive investment they've made in women's basketball. The answer so far? They can't. Look at what happened with the three-point contest at the All-Star game. Clark was supposed to participate, and there was genuine excitement about seeing her compete against the league's best shooters. When she pulled out, they replaced her with her teammate Lexi Hull. No disrespect to Hull, but that's like replacing Taylor Swift with a local cover band. It's not the same product. The merchandise sales tell a similar story. Clark jerseys were flying off the shelves, breaking records, creating waiting lists. Now, retailers are sitting on inventory they can't move. The Caitlin Clark economy has ground to a halt. Even social media engagement has plummeted. WNBA posts that don't feature Clark get a fraction of the likes, shares, and comments. The league's TikTok, which was exploding with Clark highlights, has seen engagement rates crater. This should be a wake-up call for everyone involved in women's sports. You can't build a sustainable professional league around one player, no matter how talented or popular they are. You need depth, you need multiple stars, you need compelling storylines that don't all revolve around the same person. But the WNBA didn't learn that lesson in time, and now they're facing the consequences. The Players' Union is watching all of this very carefully as they negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement. They want better salaries, better travel conditions, better marketing, but how can they negotiate from a position of strength when the league's viability seems to depend entirely on one player's health? Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. The WNBA might have grown too fast. The Caitlin Clark boom created expectations that the league wasn't ready to meet. They expanded too quickly, signed media deals based on unsustainable numbers, and assumed the growth would continue forever. It's like a tech startup that scales too fast based on one viral product, then crashes when that product loses momentum. Except this isn't an app or a website, it's an entire professional sports league with hundreds of players, coaches, and staff depending on it for their livelihoods. The international implications are significant too. The WNBA has been trying to expand its global reach, broadcasting games in 24 countries. But international fans who tuned in to see Caitlin Clark aren't sticking around for Caitlin-less games. The league's global ambitions are on hold. Meanwhile, the unrivaled league, the new 3-on-3 competition, is watching all of this with interest. They tried to get Clark to join, but she declined, choosing to rest. Now they're probably thanking their lucky stars they didn't build their entire marketing campaign around a player who spent half the season injured. What's next? That's the million-dollar question. Or should I say the billion-dollar question, since that's what the WNBA was supposed to be worth. Stephanie White says Clark is progressing, but still not practicing with the team. She's doing some full court running, building endurance, working on movement, but there's no timetable for her return. It could be next week, next month, or not at all this season. The conspiracy theorists think the league is keeping Clark out longer than necessary to prove they don't need her. That's probably nonsense, but the fact that people are even suggesting it shows how desperate and confused fans have become. Here's my take. The WNBA needs to embrace what they have in Caitlin Clark instead of fighting it. Stop trying to pretend she's just another player. Stop trying to manufacture other storylines. Accept that she's your Michael Jordan, your Tiger Woods, your Serena Williams, the transcendent talent that can take your sport to the next level. Build around her, protect her, market her, create rivalries with her at the center. Make her the face of the league unapologetically. And, for crying out loud, make sure she stays healthy. Because as these numbers show, without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA isn't must-see TV, it's barely see TV. Sophie Cunningham gets it. That's why she's become Clark's on-court bodyguard. She understands that protecting Clark isn't just about team loyalty, it's about protecting the future of women's professional basketball. The other players need to understand this too. Every hard foul on Clark, every dirty play, every injury risk doesn't just hurt the Fever. It hurts everyone in the league. It hurts their paychecks, their exposure, their legacy. As one anonymous player told me, "We all eat when Caitlin plays. When she doesn't, we all starve." That's the brutal reality of the WNBA in 2025. One player's health determines everyone's wealth. The owners who are finally speaking out understand this. That's why they're panicking. They see the numbers, they see the empty seats, they see the canceled sponsorship deals. They know this isn't sustainable, but what can they do? You can't manufacture a superstar. You can't force fans to care about players they don't connect with. You can't fake the kind of electricity that Clark brings to an arena. All they can do is wait. Wait for Clark to heal, wait for her to return, wait for the magic to come back. In the meantime, the WNBA is learning a harsh lesson about star power in professional sports. It's not enough to have a good product. It's not enough to have talented players. You need that special something, that X factor, that transcendent talent that makes people stop what they're doing and watch. Right now, the WNBA has exactly one of those players. And she's wearing street clothes on the bench. The clock is ticking. The playoffs are approaching. The future media deals hang in the balance. The expansion teams are watching nervously. Everyone's holding their breath, waiting for two words: Clark's back. Until those words come, the WNBA will continue to bleed viewers, fans, and money. The 55% ratings drop isn't just a number, it's a warning sign. Fix this or risk losing everything you've built. The league's owners, players, and fans all understand what's at stake. The question is whether they can survive long enough for their superstar to save them. Because make no mistake, Caitlin Clark isn't just the face of the WNBA. Right now, she is the WNBA. And without her, the league is facing its biggest crisis in 28 years of existence. So, what do you think? Can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark? Is the league too dependent on one player? And what does Sophie Cunningham's role as enforcer mean for the future of the Fever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on Clark's return and what it means for the future of women's basketball, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Like this video if it opened your eyes to what's really happening in the WNBA. Share it with every basketball fan you know, because this story is far from over, and you're going to want to be here for what happens next.